All right, Genesis. I've been talking about the human life template that I see in the beginning, and I've been analyzing it, and I'm ready to, in this video, to just lay out what I see. I'm sure it's not 100% complete, but I'm very confident with what I do have, and it's going to sound strange to people. However, what I'm going to suggest is that there is a common template in here that is held through other material in antiquity. Actually, that template is what frames the different beliefs, the different myths and religions. This is why they look similar. The template is what we're going after. The template turns inward and it's based on the human. But in this case, what we're going to do is go through and Genesis from the very beginning, from creation all the way up to the point where the world needs to be flooded, but just before Noah gets called, that's where I'm going to cover in this video. That is a template that is common. Let's talk about that in this video. My name is Dan Paulson, and let's get started. In this video, I'm going to be a lot more brief about the setup. I've done that quite a bit in the past, and it takes so much that it's just difficult to get to. What I'm going to suggest is that my videos have been bringing us up to the point where I am claiming that what I see is that common template is actually based on the life cycle of a human being, and that they've taken what is a normal sequence of human life and just said, here's a template, create a story on that, on how you come about, how you get hurt, how you heal, how life kind of unfolds. And the reason I say that is because I have mentally played these parts out from all over the place so often in my mind that they always, if you continue to employ that process, they will always come to the same template. They come to that same self-healing template. So there's one core reality that humans come from an energy basis that is nested here at the very core. And it's put in ways that are magical, mystical, mythical, supernatural, all manner of things for humans that are actually more inclined to that kind of mindset. At any rate, I will put a link below to the video that leads up to this one. There's one previous to this where I kind of set it up a little bit better. I describe in that how this is going to work. Very briefly, as a reminder, what I do is I take the story and I realize that what they've done is they've taken the template, the human life template, and created an outward-looking story on analogs that are carrying that. So what I'm doing is taking the story and putting it back into the psyche and stripping off the analogs, and we'll see how that fits. That's not going to be complete in the beginning because as we get into Genesis, there's actually a few rules to unpack. There's a few things that that are going to set up how this works, and we'll take a look at that. This is also common in the material, but it's held in different ways. People don't always see it, but when you take terms and create analogs out of them, you can make them sound like so many different things. They don't sound the same anymore unless somebody knows how to extract the analogous verbiage from how it plays out in the psyche. Okay, yeah, there's something nested in here. The process is always going to be the same that way. And all right, let's do a little housekeeping. I'm going to be using the NRSV. However, as I pull up my example here for working on it, you'll see what I've done is I've copied it and put it into a program and taken out the chapters and verses. Those were added in later just to help study. They were originally not there, and I just like to read it in its original form. I realize it's English, but at least I like to read First Day as a complete thing, just start to finish. You know, those chapters and numbers are not something that a little shepherd boy 3,500 years ago listened to. So yeah, put it back the way it was. Okay, you'll notice that, and let's go ahead and start on it then. The first thing I do is try to tie myself someplace to the template. This is something I learned early on that made it easier for me to try and figure out what was happening. There's a point in time where I'm realizing that I do belong, or I suspect anyway, that I am somehow on this template. And before I have it completely worked out, I'm beginning to find ways of placing myself on there. And one very specifically here that shows up commonly in other material, there's a point where there's male and female that are early on that are not before corruption begins. And right here we have Adam and Eve. And what that commonly refers to is a point in time in our life when we are conscious, aware children that are happy. We are living lives, knowing what's going on. We know people, we know things, we know life, but we don't have life experiences that we've judged in any way that makes us connected with life. We're happy, we're joyous, we have a wonderful outlook, we always expect the best. Even though there might be things that are ready to begin happening to us, they haven't yet. We are very happy kids and self-aware. That's Adam and Eve naked, not covered with anything. We don't have anything covering ourselves, unashamed. We haven't judged life. Now, this is important. Adam and Eve is a part of each one of us. This is an individual template. So Adam is going to be my conscious, carnal mind. Eve is going to be my soul, my spirit, my subconscious. Eve is going to be what runs in the background based on life experiences. That is what Eve is going to become. And the conscious Adam, that is the part of us that has the experience, that has the emotions, that decides the quality of things and actually stores it away, decides on healing or not, that sort of thing. That's where the conscious comes in. There's differences in the way the parts of the mind work that are going to be held in these stories that are teaching us how we came about and how to interact with it. In the Garden of Eden, another metaphor. These play out in the psyche. What is the Garden of Eden? The Garden of Eden is a mental state of being. That is when we're happy, kids. Life is wonderful. We're very connected with our higher self. So if we go right here and put ourselves right there at day 7, we know where we fit on the template right there. Then we know from the beginning all the way up to there is from our birth to that point in time in our life. And then from that point in time in our life on, when first sin begins, we can see how life unfolds after that. There we go. The man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Right there. That is where we are as children. We are self-aware. We have nothing covering us. We just have joy in our life, and we have no experience of the planet yet. We just like to eat cookies and play with toys and have fun, giggling and laughing. If there was such a place, that's it right there. Okay. If we back up to the beginning of the Creation 2 story and start reading it, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, when no plant of the field was yet in the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute here and have to include that God is an analogous term as well. The Lord God is... In the beginning, it is just the cosmos. It is whatever is working in the background, whatever we function from. A higher being is what it's going to end up being. But in the beginning, before we're born, this is what is there. This is what we can connect to. This Lord God is the higher self that is always going to be there throughout our life. But we're going to lose touch with it as we grow. And we're going to try to find our way back to it through this material, back to connecting with that. And as we go on, it says no plant of the field was yet. This is all about us. It's going to be our field, our earth, whatever we have growing up in us, what comes from our garden. Right down here, you see where I have it, living being highlighted in yellow, and man became a living being. We are born. That is the birth of each of us. At this moment in time right here, we are born. Living being, if you do a search in Genesis, living being only appears that one time. That's the only time that term is even used. So yeah, that's us coming into existence in the second creation story. Pop into existence as a wet infant. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, where he put the man whom he had formed. So east is a good place. A Garden of Eden is a mental state of being. And we are going to be there to begin with in this blissful place, unconnected from the world. And out of the ground the Lord God made to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. This is emerging from us, from our garden. What is emerging from us that is good at this point in time in our life? It is, what are we becoming? What are our characteristics? What are our qualities? These are all what are going to be emergent from us. Everything about us that we're born with, that is a part of who and what we are, that is not going to be a part of our experiences, but is a part of our DNA, a part of our brain types, all of that different stuff. Anyway, all of that is there. And knowledge of the tree of good and evil. So there's something else in there. There's a tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There's 2 trees there and 2 choices to make. So we're seeing a division come in. The trees, what we're going to consume from, or the trees grow from our gardens. That is what emerges from within us. Okay, so yeah, take a look at what we have here in our minds before we move on. What do we have preloaded to begin with? We've got that everything that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. So that's our joy, our happiness, our desire to learn, our just open-heartedness, our lack of judgment. We don't care what anybody looks like or anything like that as little kids. Nothing like that even matters to us. We have all of those qualities that are good qualities. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, so we have an option for life there, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Those are all growing there. So we've got everything that is good, plus a couple of options that are going to be available to us. The next one, okay, let's read it, and then I'm going to talk about it here for a second. A river flows out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divides and becomes 4 branches. The name of the first is the Pishon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Tigris, which flows east of Assyria, and the fourth river is the Euphrates. Okay, they're going to flow different directions, which are going to mean different things. One of them flows from Eden. Hang on a second here. Okay. I'm going to get someplace with this one, and just this one time I'm going to say, trust me on the analysis. It'll unfold. What I'm going to suggest right here is that there are 5 rivers right there. One of them that goes between Eden, which is the state of being, and us, and the other that are a part of us. And what that's going to break down to, because it emerges from the material consistently. So, I'm not going to explain how or why now, but we have a higher being, we have a consciousness, we have a subconscious, we have everything that we've stored in our subconscious. Those are 4 things. And what we've stored in our subconscious can be positive or negative. There's a division there. And they're going to emerge on a cyclical basis as long as they're left in place. And that's going to cause us to have a life experience that is going to be our general emotional state. That's the river between us and Eden. If you were in Taoism, it would be your flow in the Tao. It's going to emerge that way. The reason that's important is because not only does the human psyche actually work that way, but because it works that way, that is what is being put into the material in the stories. God is the higher self. The consciousness who needs to go in and do the work is whoever is going to be the one that is called to go on the journey. We become Noah. We become Joshua. We become whoever is the person that's called. Our consciousness is that person. Our other characteristics become the positive or the negative things that we have to leave behind or emerge from. And the graces of God is how we flow in life. So with respect to this material, I see that as instructional, but it's also mentally instructional. The first appearance that I've seen of it is in the Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish, as Marduk, who is the called person who is going to be going back and doing the healing. When he's created, he's got 5 beams in his head. There's a verse in the Gospel of Thomas attributed to works from Jesus. I'm sure this doesn't come from there. But there are 5 trees in paradise that do not lose their leaves, and whoever becomes acquainted with them will never die. Words to that effect. Again, the teachings are all playing out up here, and there's a few parallels here and there throughout antiquity that are talking about these 5 something somehow in the mind in the process of functioning. And when we break it down and look at it and we apply it to real life, we see that it is exactly that anyway. So that's what, there's a lot of mental processes I played out to put those pieces and parts for years and places until you can see what they're doing. And as we move along, you'll just see that work. We don't have to try and get there. I'll just show you that that's what is happening. Moving on from the rivers, let's go here. And all right, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to keep it and to till it. So far, we're just putting things in place here, how we're developing, how we come about, that there's 4 things in place we're going to function with. Now we're being put in the garden to till it and keep it. This is us. We get to live our own life now. It's time for us to start minding to growing up and experiencing life. And the Lord God commanded the man, you may eat of every tree of the garden. So whatever God has put in there, we can eat of that. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat. Okay, so we don't eat of that one, for in that day you shall die. Didn't say anything about the tree of life. There's a split, knowledge of good and evil, tree of life. Oh, then the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper as his partner. So out of the ground the Lord God formed every animal of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. Why would God look for a partner and then start bringing up creatures? Okay, what is happening right here is where things are emerging from our life experiences. We are learning blocks, playing, names, experiences. We are becoming, we're going from that infant, unaware of myself and unaware of life self, and we're going through the developmental processes right here of naming things. What we are naming is not what is in the world. We're naming the joy, the fun, the things that we're having in our life experiences. We're learning that, that banana is good. It's fruit. It's yellow. It's sweet. I didn't know those things before, but now I'm learning all of those things. That lady that brings me cookies is grandma. She's coming today. Now I know more. We're at that point where we are naming what comes from our garden right there. We're developing and having our personal life experiences. Okay, wrapping up the second creation story. The man gave names to all cattle and to the birds of the air and to every animal of the field. But for the man there was not found a helper as his partner. Okay, so we're naming obviously we're naming more than cattle and birds, right? To every animal. Cattle is very important in their culture. They're using it as you're naming things from the physical earth, birds of the air, thoughts. You're getting your thoughts, your physical life experience, and every animal of the field. This doesn't go into very much detail, but you're just not alone. You're naming your life experiences and establishing a little bit of a hierarchy there mentally, but not much. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. Then he took one of his ribs and closed its place with flesh. There's nothing hidden in there. And the rib that the Lord God had taken out of the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man. What emerges from here is just that there is something aside from you, that it is your partner. It is a part of you. It is emergent from you. Then the man said, "This at last is the bone of my bones, of the flesh of my flesh. This one shall be called woman, for out of man this one was taken." Woman is each of our other being, that part of us that when we are not consciously having experiences, the thing that is in the background driving us through life and having us have experiences, that is woman. And we are now developed enough to have both of those there. Therefore, a man leaves his father and his mother and clings to his wife. The father and mother inside cling to the wife. Whatever your origins are, you leave them behind and you cling to your inner being, and they become one flesh. This is like a marriage. This is us being at one with ourselves. And the man and the wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Okay, so let's sum that up and then go back and pick up the first creation story. What we had here is we just emerge. We're born. We come fixed with a certain set of things. There is a higher and a lower part of us that is built, but that there are 5 qualities that we function within: the higher being, the conscious being, the subconscious being, referred to as the female, and all the offspring, the positive and the negative characteristics that we hold within that, plus the flow in life that we have that leads to our general state of way that we live life and feel about life. And that as we grow, we begin to finally develop, and mentally we learn enough to become conscious, functioning, self-aware humans that are still happy at this point. But we're ready now to mentally begin judging life experiences, where before we couldn't. We are now poised, ready to start having life experiences. We're at a different developmental stage. We're Adam and Eve to begin with. We're the children, nothing covering us. We don't have shame. We're not hurt yet. And we're in that happy place. Okay, let's go back and pick up what is in creation 1. There's going to be some other things in here conceptually that we'll just talk through. And I'm going to tell you that the reason I can say that they are what I believe they are when we get to cause and effect, for example, is because the more material you look at, the more you realize everybody's doing this as well. Cause and effect is a part of the teaching. Okay, creation 1. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day. We just emerged into the light from the darkness, from the back. That's us emerging right there. That one is us being born. And God said that let there be a dome in the midst of the waters. So in the midst of this blankness that we are, we're going to start creating the conditions for us to have a mind and a body and a subconscious in this. We're going to start creating that. Watch for those to emerge. Let there be a dome. Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. We're creating our mind. We're not just being a physical human being anymore. We are creating our mind, the sky, the place where our thoughts are going to be. And God said, let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. God called the dry land earth. This is our physical experience right here. This is our earth being created. And the waters that were gathered together he called seas. This is emergent from a lower place, the seas. This is going to be our subconscious. This is going to be our deeper self. And God saw that it was good. It's going to be the place where things emerge from, and this is where things are just operating at that level. There are parts of us, higher parts, conscious parts, subconscious parts. That's what they're doing here in the analogous verbiage that is meant to carry in a culture. Yeah. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed. Okay, so now we are going to do something interesting here. Just like in the other story, we're putting forth vegetation, and we're going to see that they're all good, but there's something else happening. Watch this. Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with a seed in it. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. See that bearing fruit with the seed in it? That's where they slip cause and effect in right there. We're going to have something that's continually emerging. So there is something. So this is setting cycles up as well. Plants grow. They are seasonal, and they are going to be of the nature of their seed. Our life will be the same way. The nature of our life is going to be the same way. What we experience in life is going to be the nature of what we are holding away inside of us. And it's going to continue to emerge. They're wiring that in here. And they're showing us that that's here. We have to know what to find. It's conceptual. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, cycles, and for days and years, to let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give them light upon the earth. You watch science lately, everything is based in energy, a template, something. We are on that. Everything is emergent on that. We're supposed to recognize that and see that we are on a scaffolding of some sort that is repeating. And it was so. God made the two greater lights, and the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. I'm not exactly certain what they're doing right here. It's going to be along the lines of everything else that we're working on as far as how it plays out in the psyche. It might be more ways of showing that there are cycles, that there are, the signs, the seasons, the lights. We know that it's not the sun and the moon. Half the time the moon and the sun are up. I mean, you can, not half the time. What I mean is that as many times as the moon is up at midnight, it'll be up at midday in your world. So obviously it's not the creation of the sun and the moon. It's something different, but it's the things that emerge in our life, either from the background or the things that we have decided upon, the good stuff and the bad stuff, are always going to come out cyclically. And God said, let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky. So things are emerging from our subconscious and we're beginning to have thoughts. Our own thoughts, happy thoughts. So God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that moves of every kind. Now we're getting, interesting, more options for bad things, with which the waters swarm and every winged bird of every kind. Well, I don't know if sea monsters is a bad thing. It might just mean whales. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply in the earth. And there was evening and there was morning the fifth day. We're going to continue to develop, and our simple selves are going to become more complicated. We're going to grow and develop, and our brains are going to network, and it's going to go forth and multiply fruitfully. Our experiences, whatever they are going to be fruitful and multiply. Whatever the experiences that we hold that we don't let go of are going to continue to be fruitful and multiply, regardless of what they are. This is setting up how life is working. It's going to work. And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things and wild animals of every kind. And it was so. Cause and effect again. But it's also calling things into existence. But at this point, it's all God doing it. That means it's the higher being. We're not in charge yet. This is still not us in control of what's going on. So these are the things that are being set up for us that we need to know. God made the wild animals of the earth of every kind, and the cattle of every kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground of every kind, and God saw that it was good. This is establishing that we are born a certain way, and the way you're born is the way you are, that you don't have any control over that. Then God said, let us make humankind in our image according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over the cattle and over all the wild animals of the earth and over. So this is what is happening right here is we're developing to the point that now we start deciding what our life experiences are. We are developing. So we are now, before all of those things were established for us, now we are being able to establish them for ourselves. And in the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. This means for us to have control over everything that is in our life, that emerges from our sea, our air, our thoughts, our inner being. We are having control over all of it, and at first it's good. God said, see, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. Food spiritual. You can consume whatever you want, good or bad. And to every beast of the earth and to every bird of the air. Your physical, the things you do physically and the way your mind works, and everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food, and it was so. God saw that everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good, and there was evening and there was morning the sixth day. So at this point, everything is still good, of course. I kind of jumped ahead there, didn't I? And there was evening and morning the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished in all their multitude. This is our higher and our lower self. This is our conscious and our subconscious self. We are now... This is like Adam and Eve right here. And on the seventh day, God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation. I'm going to throw something at you here that's a little bit advanced. Number 1:7 is an important thing. Think of their culture, what they're doing at their time, and the fact that they've got a bunch of people that they're trying to get control of, and having a day to come and learn this and to hear about things. It's establishing control in the population. There's Big Brother watching. That's only one part of what's going on. We cannot underscore how important a day 7 would be to a culture that doesn't read, doesn't write, doesn't have material like that available. It's getting bigger and bigger. You need control. But I think it's more than that. 3,500 years ago, the society's getting big. You're kind of scattered all over the place. A day that you come to the temple to hear about the word, to have somebody read to you, because you don't read, you don't write, there are no books. That would be a very culturally important thing. Imagine that our lives are not the same as theirs. That would be like the day you go do something that would be a fun day that you do that. Day 7 would be incredibly important. However, we are the spiritual seekers. So let's take a look at something else. I want to say that something gets my attention as I read this stuff. Things, for example, if I go, here, I jumped ahead. If I go back up to the end of creation 1, and I read, and on the 7th day, God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation. That just is so redundant. It like smacks you in the head. It's almost like a teacher stomping their foot telling you this is going to be on the test. So I want to know what that is. So I put 7 in here because that's right there. That's the creation story that seems like, well, that's a little bit odd. It sounds different than the other ones, even though it's the first one. Anyway, so I typed 7 into a search bar, and what I find is down here, these are not 7s. This is 7-fold, 77-fold, 7-fold, 807 years. Yeah, these are all not 7. Not until we get, actually, when we see 7s reappear right here. Noah, monomyth, calling number 2. There's 2 monomyths. Remember I said that? There's 2 callings. Actually, there's only 1 monomyth, but there's 2 callings. Noah was called twice, and each time he was told to take different things, and look at, wouldn't you know it, 7 pairs, 7 pairs, 7 days, 7 days, 17th. You know what? It's either a coincidence, it's a writing style. I see it as 2 add-ins that are putting something along. 7 is an important part of their culture. Hang on a second here. 7 is going to be a point that the stories are going to come back over and over to. In fact, the number 7 appears in the Bible 735 times. There are an inordinate amount of times, but if you look at where they sequence in the stories as we begin to analyze them, you see that 7 is actually an analog being being used to hold something. And what was 7 in creation? The day that we were naked, unashamed, and in the Garden of Eden. That is establishing, that is a tie point, and this is added in later, making sure that that is getting sent along. And as we go on and continue the analysis, what we're going to find is 7 seems to be most predominantly used as, that tie point of here is when healing is. You get back to this point. Who enters the kingdom of heaven within? Ask the child 7 days old. It's all going to be there. The 7s are going to be indicating or pointing to a point in our development where we were not quite connected to we hadn't become wired yet in our world. Since this is an important video, let me stop for a moment and refresh a little bit of knowledge on the analogs, what I've discovered. The analogs are very flexible. The 7 in this case is what I'm going to talk about and how it works. Analogs are, you take something that is happening inside. For example, I might say I'm holding on to something that I won't let go of, and it's causing me to just cycle around that. And that's a true story. But if I want to create it in a way that is nested in something, then I start grabbing parts of life that are analogous for me. So I might say a ship is an analog for me, and its anchor is an analog for holding on to something. And I could say the ship can only sail around its anchor, which then means since I make it me, I can only cycle around that which I'm hanging on to. That is how the analogs work. They shift. But sometimes we get stuck to them because the way they're used and the way we hold them physically in the physical world. By that I mean if we were to use food, consuming. If I am eating in the physical world, that means I'm taking in nutrients. If I'm fasting, then I'm not eating. In the spiritual world, if I'm consuming, that means I'm feeding my mind. And I could feed it good stuff or bad stuff. And it works. That analog directly translates from the physical world to the spiritual world. And you'd think, oh, that's simple. I see how that works. But it doesn't. They can shift. That's just the easy one. Naked, for example. It is a good thing to be clothed in public, in the real world. You don't want to be naked in public. In the spiritual world, being naked means I am not covered with anything. I am not hiding anything. I'm not lying, cheating, stealing. I don't have anything tucked away that can't come out of me. All of that is analogous to covering up something that you're afraid of that's not good. It's derogatory in this case. So being naked suddenly takes on a different role. Being naked is okay. In this case, we've got 7, which in the physical world is a number. That's a very specific. This means 7. In the spiritual world, it means this point in time in our life and our development where we have not yet been having life experiences that cause us to begin living through those life experiences. We're still just happy, joyful, living in the moment of what is happening at that time. We're not looking at things and judging them and evaluating and tucking them away and beginning to grow and develop yet. 7 is very directly at that point. It doesn't mean 7 days or 7 years. It means a developmental point in time in your life before we begin becoming products of what we experienced. The addition in the creation story is at the beginning of the life template. And the addition to the Noah story, Noah is the very first step, the very first call in the self-healing journey. So right there, both of those additions are right at the beginning of each one of the templates. I think that those, they're recognizable. People know about those 2 parts in there. This is the first time, though, is if you analyze them using this procedure, I think there comes online a reason as to why those are there. And there were changes in an original story, in an original Jewish story that became the beginning of Genesis. And there were added parts into it. You can see why. But only after you interpret it in the psyche. Only then do you go, okay, I see what they're doing. They're making sure that I've got this 7 along the way in the story so that as I keep going through it, I can keep going back to that tie point in my adventure. In fact, across the board, I'd say from culture to culture, they're doing this, that they're building stories on this template and they're using different analogous terms. The Jews use numbers quite a bit. When we get to the same creation story that was added in, there's also going to be a 40 days added in. There's going to be a flood duration time frame that is going to actually equate to in the psyche is the time it takes to purge something out. The duration it takes from when you enter to the time you come out the other side cleared out. It's again, it's not a specific time frame, 40 days. It's the time frame it takes for you to resolve this issue internally. From the time you go, oh crap, I have to do this, to the time you go, boy, I'm glad that's over with. That's 40 right there. And that's being established. And we're going to see it emerge 40s a lot as well. And it's going to relate to the same sort of thing. In fact, 40 days or 40 nights or 40 years in the desert sounds like a time frame in the absence, devoid of anything. You're looking for what's in the desert? Nothing. Yeah, that's what we're looking for, to empty out. Anyway, yeah, watch out for in Jewish material. Numbers are going to be analogous terms that mean mental states of being or processes that we're going through, time frames that we're taking to heal, that sort of stuff. Okay, right now I want to review what we've done. We've just done Creation 1 and Creation 2. Both of those get to us right here to this point where now the stories tie together and there's going to be one line to follow. When first sin happens, we're going to go from our happy selves and move on. But let's stop and see what we've established, because we're not just born and happy in the garden. We collected a suitcase full of things here. Let's take a look at our treasure chest and see what we're going to move ahead with. All right, in a nutshell, Creation 1, we're born emergent from the cosmic background. That's important because we're going to be structured on the way the cosmic background works. We're from it, we're emergent from it, we're products of it. And we become mind and spirit, conscious and subconscious. There's a trilogy hierarchy of physical, mental, and inner self, spiritual self, subconscious. Cause and effect is established. Physical reality is based in like energy of itself. And this is completely an energy-based universe. Even the physical matter is based in energy. And that our emotions are as well. So our emotional state is what we're using to measure the quality of life. Some people say it's an emotional-based universe. It's not. We have an emotional experience with our life in the universe. But yeah, I don't think the universe is emotional, but we sure are. That's how we determine the quality of our own personal life. So that means shame is going to be emerging from something that is hidden away that is of a shameful nature. That hate is going to emerge from things that are stored away inside of us from a hateful nature. that whatever is going to be emerging from our gardens or from anybody's gardens is based on the nature of what is inside of there in a memory and emotional state. Everything moves in repeating cycles, physical and thoughts. Everything in the universe moves in cycles, absolutely. Everything that we experience also moves in cycles. Large ones, small ones. Repeating ones, good ones, bad ones. Everything is in cycles. Sometimes, like life, there's one cycle. 5, we have pre-established characteristics. We show up with mind, body, and inner self. Yeah, there's certain physical characteristics, mental characteristics. There's certain things that we show up with that we don't have any control over. We've got different brain types. We've got introverts, extroverts, people who are going to be strong, people who are going to be like, want to go fight in war. There's people that are going to want to go be, scientists and make things. We're born with certain sort of qualities that we don't have any control over. Then we become self-aware enough to judge life, but have not yet started judging life. So we've established here that, that everything that the way we function is going to be based on these qualities right here. And then finally at number 7, we establish a tie point to this personal state of being right here. Then if we go into creation number 2, what is there? We're born emergent from the cosmic background again. You can see these were parallel stories kind of, but they include different things. This one also says we come preloaded with certain qualities for life experiences. Yeah, there are things that God plants in the garden that you don't plant. Later on, you get to decide what things are. But in the meantime, all of these, and you know what? These are good things, bad things. They're joy, they're love, they're all kinds of good things. We come loaded with that, but we also come loaded with introversion, extroversion, thinking capacity. We're going to come preloaded with sex drives, with other things that are going to make us what we are. Then it goes on and tells us we use 5 inner parts to function. Higher being, the consciousness, subconscious, stored memories, and we flow in life based on those. And those stories are going to be written with that right there, with that hierarchy right there. As we decode the stories, we're going to find out that's how we get here. And then we develop enough mentally while we're young to begin naming our own experiences, and our subconscious develops as experiences accumulate. But at this point, we are young and happy to start with. We do not experience inner conflict from life's accumulated experiences. Okay, still on board or hanging back there? All right, that's what I'm proposing that I see at this point in time, that this is actually, that creation is exactly true. But what is creation? It's the creation of the human and the way that this is going to unfold. If you went to Taoism, you would not find a big network like this as a creation story. You will find something that's very simple. We emerge from nothing and we start to become products of the things that we judge and we name. It just jumps right into that. It doesn't do all of the 5 parts and all the other things. As it goes through the material, though, it's very concise, it's very short, it's not a big story network. Something like Genesis has additional things in it that are, what are they? They're actually going to relate to how the human works and how the story works. Where one is very much, like Taoism, is very much a simple, short, figure this out. In a storytelling culture, Genesis has got the same template in there, only it's a monstrously big story. It's a huge story carrying the same template. Just each stage along the way is bigger. But in creation here, you can see what they're doing is it's also establishing how the story's going to work. You know, the 5 pieces and things like that, the cause and effect, all of that, how that is embedded in there. And what I'm going to suggest as we go to other places, there will be things that you look at and go, oh, that's cause and effect. Oh, that's showing cycles. Yet we're going to find cycles and cause and effect are always going to be parts of the teaching up front. If it is a creation story, not a monomyth, it won't do that. A creation story will do that. That's where we find that. Okay, we're set for life. First sin. Let's see where this brings us. And I'm going to suggest, yes, this is our experiential and developmental life in the world begins. Now the serpent was craftier than other wild animals that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God say, 'You shall not eat from any tree in the garden'?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, 'You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die.' But the serpent said to the woman, 'You shall not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.'" So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to eat, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Let's stop right here for a second and talk about what we have right here. So the serpent is going to represent the creature that is tied to the earth, physically to the earth. This is a representation. The analogous representation here is that this is the physical world, the things that are going on as we look out into the world, and we're not somehow risen above it. We are parts of it. We are products of what is going on in the world. That's what the serpent represents, being tied to the earth. No legs, no arms, no way to climb. It's tied to terra firma, right on the ground there. And the woman, of course, is our subconscious, and it's being tempted by that. And the serpent is telling it will not die. What we have is this idea playing out that we are young and we're being tempted to start learning. We're not necessarily tempted. This is just things that go on in life, to be honest. When you think about it, it is not us off going and doing bad things. Although that can happen. All of that fits in there. You're doing bad stuff. You're getting raped, molested, all that. But none of those things need to be happening. What this is much more direct than that. We are learning our life experiences, how to judge life based on what we're seeing in the physical world. That is learning the difference between good and bad. But we're seeing the world for what it is. We're seeing people get hurt. We're seeing people get maimed. We're seeing people being, we begin thinking, well, those people must be bad and those people must be bad. And I see that going on. And we begin doing that without realizing there's a cause and effect, and there's something that what we're observing is the final manifestation of a deeper energy. So what we are doing, like normal people would, we grow up in life wiring ourselves to something that's already done. When something is manifest, that's the final fruit from the garden. Cause and effect. That's where we're starting to learn that we're becoming products of what we're observing out there instead of detaching from that. So these are important things to look at, but that is what is happening right here. And the conscious, when you think about this, is the conscious is Adam separate from Eve? Is the subconscious off on its own doing something and then coming back and hurting the conscious? This is a union between the conscious and the subconscious, but what is happening is that something gets put away that is no longer good. That's what this is representing here. The Adam and Eve, the two are together, naked, unashamed, in the garden. What happens? Sin happens. Somehow they experience life, the knowledge of good and evil. You're losing your innocence. You now see that it is not, everything is not all good. There's a lot of bad in the world, and we're a part of it. And we get caught up in it, and we pick sides, and we become a part of that whole big mess down there when we start, if we don't know any different. And we're hoping to emerge from that. But at this point in time, that is really what is unfolding in our life experiences. If you look at it and you analyze what is going on, this is where we are beginning to accumulate the things that we don't want to talk about. We want to cover ourselves. We realize we're naked and we don't like it. We're becoming aware of things and we want to start covering up our shame and our hurt. And we lose the happiness. So now we're off on our adventures. We've been kicked out. What happens for our punishment here? Actually, let me drop back and read something that I skipped. Then the eyes of both were opened. Yeah, after they consumed that, the both of them do it together, right? She gives it to him. That they both actually do it. We are now becoming separated. Both of the eyes were open. We realize we're naked. We want the loincloths on. They heard the Lord God walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze, and the man and his wife hid them from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Hid themselves. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" So they're going through this whole process, and she's the woman. It's a whole story, but we just covered what is actually happening there is that this is just us learning about life. So when the woman says, "The serpent tricked me and I ate," what that means is that we are consuming from the world of things that we were not exposed to before. Because you have done this, you cursed among the animals and the wild creatures. On your belly you shall go, and the dust you shall eat of your life. This is representing you will always be stuck to the ground as long as you're there. You're not going to rise up above it. I will put enmity between you and the woman. Yeah, we're all afraid of snakes, aren't we? Because some of them can kill us. We should be afraid of snakes. There's a lot of things we're afraid of, okay? Enmity between us and a lot of things. The lions will eat us. To the woman, he said, I will greatly increase your pangs in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children, and your desire will be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. See, I will greatly increase your pangs in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. So this is actually representing what? We've got the analogous representation here again of our psyche, the woman who is giving birth, which is the things that we are now holding on to that are hurtful, that are going to begin to emerge. This right here is showing us the cyclical pain coming into play right here. The cyclical pain is going to be a part of it, and it's painful. Pain in childbirth, female, emerging. Whatever comes out of me that is not okay is going to be painful, and it's going to continue to increase in pain. Okay, you see that there? This is a cyclical representation held in an analogous way that works. And you will obey your husband. Sure, the subconscious doesn't rule. The subconscious is a product of the way the conscious has experienced life, decided the emotional quality of that, and stored it away. The subconscious in the wife is a product of the conscious thinking. Period. That's where it comes about. The way we hold things, the way we store things, is going to cause us to continue to experience them and feel them emotionally. So that experience, that spiritual experience is all based in mental conflict. Analogs again. I mean, just look this through. The female doesn't rule the male. However, the children or the disobedient female acts out. Yet the disobedient female or the offspring are because of the union of the female and the male. So it's this whole twisted, convoluted thing that you look at in the world and think, what? Women? What the hell's your problem? When actually, it's like, this is 3,500 years ago. They've got something else going on. This is the subconscious acting out. This is when, after we have had an experience that is not dealt with and put away, that is going to continue to act out. But that is there as a result of the conscious experience to begin with. One of the things that we need to infer from this, if you step back far enough from it, is that you could be born anywhere in the world and become something different. You would have been wired differently. Your belief would have been completely something different. If you think back on your life and when you came about and how you learned things, you will realize that we are products of what we were told and what our life experiences were. And coming from somewhere else, that's all there is to it. You come from somewhere else, you have a different belief. You talk different, you sound different. You eat different, you think different, you believe different. We need to know that we are mentally products of local experiences, except for that part that we were born with that already establishes our brain types, our personality, our drives, the different things like that. The things that we are born with, no matter where we go, they would be the same. However, beyond that, what we begin to name and what we decide upon is what our life becomes. In fact, let's continue on here and see where that takes us. I'm going to remind you from time to time, this is completely playing out in the psyche, or it's going to shift that. Once everything is set up and established as to how it's going to work, once we get to this point now, this is completely about us. We got the rules in place, we got the 5 parts and everything else. Let's go ahead and jump in. And the first we have here, then the Lord God said, and I'm going to tell you something else. The God is the higher being. When we are young and when we are living life, we are living from this higher being. Except that when we're young, we don't have the conscious capacity to grasp that. We don't. That's why we can't make it back to the Garden of Eden. We have to go someplace different later on. We want to get back to that place of disconnected, except that point we're going to have knowledge of. As kids, we didn't. Garden of Eden is a place of blissful ignorance. What we need to do is get to a place of blissful awareness. Well, we'll get up to that. Okay, so what is God in this case, though? God is something very specific. God is analogous to, in the beginning, it is the cosmos. It stays that way, but as we go on and begin to interact with the material, God, connecting with God is a mental place, the higher being, the terms that I'm using. That's when you can, if you're the kind of person that can do this, if you're the kind of person that can step outside of yourself, really detach from it and look at yourself from a distance, emotionally detached from things, being able to have this internal mental struggle with yourself where you're conscious. It's like, I don't want to take care of things, but there's another part of you that goes, you know what? If you do this, it'll make you feel better. That part right there is your higher being. The part that's winning at first is the conscious saying, it feels too bad. I'm not going to do it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. So at first, when we're not ready to turn inward, the higher being is there and we can interact with it, but it's not winning. If that is the higher being right there. When we're little kids, we are very much connected with that because we don't have an issue with it, but again, we're not aware of it. So as time goes on, what's happening is we're losing our connection with that. God kicking us out, clothing us, all of that is representative of, I am now no longer connected with you anymore. You have lost your bliss, but also you're separated from me. This represents the idea that as life goes on, we lose track of that. We don't realize that higher being is there and we don't employ it. The chosen one is somebody who is what? And in Jewish material, it's always somebody who walks with God, who walks upright with God. It's somebody who stays connected with that higher being. Okay, that's an advanced part. But at this point in time in life, if we look at it and we're growing, if we're getting to that point where we want to look at life and change it, what we realize is that that we really begin just kind of living from the physical experience, the physical world, and the way we continue to hold the memories of our experiences and our day-to-day things. We're so caught up in them that we don't step back from them and see the cause and effect and interact with them ahead of time. We're interacting like everybody else, kind of moving ahead, looking backwards, not realizing that that's the case. Because in time we're moving forward, but in energy we're looking backwards. Does that make sense? Physically, whatever is happening is the end. Although things continue to cycle off of that. Yeah, cause and effect is important. Okay, let's go back and finish up with this one. And he drove out the man at the east of the Garden of Eden, placed the cherubim and a sword flaming and turning to guard the way of the tree of life. Okay, east is where the direction was where he sent him to begin with. So happiness is gone there. It sounds like something to that effect. The cherubim and a sword flaming and turning to guard the way to the tree of life. Okay, the tree of life is what we want to, but you can't get back to it. Not from here. When we are early on in the material, actually, we don't have to sin. You don't have to partake of that tree. Not everybody partakes of that tree. And what that means is somebody who is probably raised in a way that they're just not, they're taught from early on to not connect in that way, that they're taught cause and effect. That's a possibility. There are also people that don't have bad lives, that have really a lot of fun and a lot of joy. But at this point, we can't get back to the Garden of Eden. Why? And again, it's to go to that. Once we've made the choice to learn, you can never get back. You can't go back anymore. And the place that we want to get to is a place of equal joy and disconnectedness, except, again, next time we're going to know about the world. We have to find out how to let go of the things that we see that cause us hurt, instead of being the kids that are not hurt because we do not see. All right, now I don't want to glaze over these, but I know I need to get moving along and do this. At the same time, it has to be built. It has to be established. I know it's not a simple and easy thing. Okay, Cain murders Abel. Let's move on. This is where we're going to become divided. This is, again, playing out inside of us. We have a Cain. We have an Abel. We have a good. We have a bad. We have divisions ahead. So the man knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have produced a man with the help of the Lord. So here we have our divisions. Abel was a keeper of the sheep, and Cain a tiller of the ground. Remember, these are analogous. We're going to extract what they mean in our psyche when we're done. This is built on a story for the population, while all the time the template is inside. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel, for his part, brought the firstlings of his flock, their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. I want to talk about this one for a minute, because I wondered I don't get why God would favor one over the other. There is an issue there that we need to look at. Why would God favor the fat of the animal as opposed to the fruit of the land? Land, animal, fruit. I put myself back in that time, and again, we have to get out of our biases and what would sound good to them on a day-to-day basis that we don't even think about on it today. And I think back then that I would not have meat very often. There's no refrigeration. It's fresh. It's expensive. It has to be raised. It has to be butchered right. It has to be eaten. You can salt some of it. You can do some sort of preservation. But I think on a day-to-day basis, you would not be eating meat as a regular thing. And having fat and having meat to eat when you're a skinny person. I mean, there's agriculture. There are new things happening. But I just see where if somebody said, I got some corn for you, you'd be like, oh, God. And if somebody said, I got a cheeseburger, you'd be like, oh my gosh. This is a different time, a different place. And it's hard for us to imagine that. But I look at that and think, well, the idea here is that God actually is the higher being. We're looking for a preference here. What is it that we want? The stuff that comes from the earth, the fruits of the ground, that is like, isn't that where the serpent was tied to the ground? That's where the fruits are coming from. However, the fats are somehow elevated. So it's looked at as something that's more desirable. So in this case, the one who is stuck to the ground is the one who defeats the one who wants to rise up above it. This is us failing. Right. So Cain Cain was very angry and his countenance fell. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry and why has your countenance fallen? He's mad. If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is lurking at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. Sin knocking at the door, this is what is inside of us, knocking at the door inside of us. Rumi, I've been standing on the lip of insanity, knocking, trying to find a way. I'm paraphrasing this. The door opens. I've been knocking from the inside. Yeah, we are now taking on things. We get angry. And we are not mastering it. And what else? Our countenance has fallen. Yeah, we've lost the Garden of Eden, the happy, blissful, and now we are no longer the happy, regular person. Yeah, we are now becoming this kind of angry, or maybe not always angry, maybe just disappointed. You used to look eagerly towards something that was going to happen, and you got disappointed enough times that you're like, I don't even trust them anymore. We're beginning to become something different that we're connected and attached to in an emotional way in such a manner that it's going to continue to grow and get bigger that way for us as we move along. Life is going to be that way. You can see yourself in this story. Cain said to his brother Abel, so they go, yep, we have this struggle. The earlier self defeats the potential for good. It could go either way, and what happens here, it goes the bad way. It doesn't for everybody. This is another part of the story where it could split. This is going on to show the worst case scenario. You could be Cain or Abel at this point. The story is only written with one option in place. If you don't need that option, you're off and gone. You don't need the material. Okay, or you might hold the material for other reasons. You might hold the shell of the material, never needing the template. Okay, let's move on. And I'm going to remind you again, this is all playing out in the psyche. So let's keep looking at that. All right, so his brother Abel and killed. Yeah, okay, so Cain said to his brother Abel, let us go out to the field. And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. There we go. So the split happens. Then the Lord said to Cain, where's your brother Abel? He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord asked him, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground, and now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it will no longer yield to you its strength. You will be a fugitive and wanderer on the earth. Okay, let's just stop right there for a second and talk about that. This I see in here, your brother's blood crying out from the ground. This is our internal struggles when we're hurting at this time in our life. We haven't decided to turn inward yet, but we have this idea going on that we are struggling in life and want to rectify things, but we're not. We go right back into it. We want to rectify things and we don't. We go right back into it. Back and forth. We're struggling with this going on. And that's what the brother's blood crying out from the ground is. That's the good part of you saying, God, why did I do this? Why? Then we move on. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Today you have driven me away from the soil, and I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and wanderer on the earth, and anyone who meets me may kill me. Then the Lord said to him, not so. Whoever kills Cain will suffer a sevenfold vengeance. And the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one came upon him and could kill him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So what we just have witnessed here is a further separation from the higher being. You're disconnected from God. there is this, you realize at some point, you look back on your life and realize the blood in the soil. Yeah, that is your earlier self that you didn't let it win. So it's there. It's like it's buried in the ground, but it's crying out. This is us having turmoil in life. We're happy at times and then not at others. It's up and down. It's a mixed bag. And then what happens? You're protected. There's a mark on you so you can't be killed. I don't know what that is, honestly, in the psyche. It's a strange thing. I know if you go look at Jason and the Argonauts, there's a point where the goddess tells King Pelias. The story is that Jason is the one who is the rightful heir of the mind. This is who the hero is going to be. But at first, King Pelias is the one who grows up and takes over the land. So King Pelias represents the individual who is in charge of your early self. King Pelias is your early self. Jason is your later self. You want your later self to go defeat your early self. And there's a point in there where the goddess protecting Jason tells King Pelias, you cannot kill Jason or you will kill yourself. These clues are in here as kind of this, you're all connected in here. These are all parts of you, or you cannot completely kill off everything. It's, yeah. I don't know if that's anything in the psyche or if it's simply a story element, but that's what I read out of it. So as we move on in our life, we have beginnings of civilization. Beginnings of civilization. This means we're going to go forth and multiply. Going forth and multiplying, experiencing and connecting to our initial physical life. We become complex in this connection over time. So let's go ahead and do this. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city and named it Enoch after his son Enoch. A city is going to be the basic framework of our structure of who and what we are. Our overall values and morals and judgments and actions and reactions. We're all going to have different cities, some of them very nice and some of them very bad cities. A city is an analog for our internal structure. You could call it your land or something like that too. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael the father of Methushael, and Methushael the father of Lamech. Lamech took 2 wives. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. Adah bore Jabal. He was the ancestor of those who live in tents and have livestock. His brother's name is Jubal. He was the ancestor of all those who play the lyre and pipe. Zillah bore Tubal-Cain, who made all kinds of bronze and iron tools. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, let's stop right there. Actually, what's happening right here? It is our life growing. We leave home. We're very simple. We begin doing different things. We have different exposures. All of these are analogous terms that in their culture they would look around and go, oh, I see these people around. I see how that happened and whatnot. But it's a story structure holding something. This is holding the idea that we're just living life, going through life, picking up new things, learning new things, having more offspring, becoming more complicated. Before we had a couple of things split. Now we know those people, and we also know those people and those relationships. We have become incredibly complex. That is what's happening right here. This is the complexity and continued development of the human. To Seth, a son was also born, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to invoke the name of the Lord. You know what I hear there at that time? This is inside. This is inside crying out, going, oh my God, we have to do something different. We've got changes happening down here in life. All right, this next section, we're not going to cover very much, but we're going to encapsulate it. This is one that I don't recognize from anywhere else. All the things I read, I don't find anything quite like this. There are lineages all over, but nothing quite like this. It's a very complex, I don't know what it is. It's some kind of a graph, and I don't know what it leads to. I almost think that it is a directory somehow, but it's still in there. Simply because it doesn't play out in the psyche. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't evolve anything, unless it's just to say it just continually gets worse and worse. But the numbers are all going to be representative of something else. They're not just throwing those in there arbitrarily. They're going to mean something. The names, actually, as you go through and look at names and whose offspring, you're going to typically find names that have, from their time, that mean something. Take the names out and put the meaning in, and you're going to see qualities emerging. The good stuff and the bad stuff, the joy, the pain, the loyalty, the the lies, all of that are going to be emergent in a deeper layer of looking at this. I'm staying pretty shallow actually on it. There is no Enoch in the Bible, in the religion, in the approved religion. However, there is a book of Enoch, and Enoch is mentioned in here, and it's mentioned in this area. It looks to me like at one point in time, this might have been a directory leading to other stories. However, remembering that this is a verbal culture. It's a verbal culture. They're probably telling people there's other stories or something else out there. And anyway, that's all I can say about it at this point. All right, we'll just set that off to the side and move on to the last step here in this template. The wickedness of humankind. This is where our lives have become our hell. And let's take a look at some fun things in here. When people began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that they were fair, and they took wives for themselves of all that they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in mortals forever, for they are flesh. Their days shall be 120 years. Look, there's another number in there. Who are the sons of God and the wives that they took for themselves, the fair wives? These are our qualities. These are our good qualities, our joy, our sense of wonder, curiosity, joy, amazement. All of those things are good qualities that we have early on, and they're going to be taken over by things, actually. Those are going to be the offspring of what we have that emerge from us. These are qualities that we have, and they're just calling them offspring. And as we continue, what do we see here? The Nephilim. Well, that's interesting. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God went into the daughters of humans who bore children to them. These were the heroes that were of old, warriors of renown. That we got to unwrap that one. I know what it is, but we got to talk about it. The Nephilim giants, they were some kind of, they had power. They were on earth. They were something, a part of us. The daughters of humans who bore children to them. These are our qualities that we have to begin with that are good, joyous, happy qualities that turn into negative ones. Now instead of please come in, it's get the hell out. Now instead of I love you, it's I hate you. We've grown to the point that these qualities that we had at one point in time have been taken over by something that is so powerful. They win. They win. If we were to go look at the Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish, what we would see is that they're called early gods that have to be wiped out. They're so powerful as they're taking over that they win. They have to be defeated later by Marduk. And in this case, we're not going to go on that adventure in this video. We're going to end this here very quickly. Okay, yeah, stop and think about it. They're using some sort of elements looking outward to carry something that is going to be continuously this way, if you play it out in the psyche and always use that. What happens if we move on to the last part of this right here? The Lord saw that the wickedness of humankind was great on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of their hearts was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made humankind on earth, and it grieved him to his heart. Okay, what we're saying right here is that we have looked at our life and said it is an utter wreck. It's a shambles. My thoughts are frazzled. My life is frazzled. I'm out of control. I might even try to hide it and put on this show like that's not happening. But inside, I'm an inner mess, and only I know that. It's time to wipe things out. I'm sorry that all of that stuff came about. I'm sorry that I made all the decisions and choices and things and connected with, and now I need to go, oh, that is what happened. I get it. Cause and effect, cycle. I'm a product of my upbringing. I got it. I can extract myself from that. Then what do we have in the last one here? This is a transitional verse. Watch what I'm going to do something here. So the Lord said, I will blot out from the earth the human beings I have created, people together with animals and creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. This is everything that exists within us. This is the transition. I'm not sure where the chapters are, but I'm calling it right here. This is where the first monomyth calling happens. But Noah found favor in the sight of the Lord. Boom, right there. It ends from the very first, from creation 1 to here is the Genesis, what I'm calling the human template, the human life template. It is based on the average life of a human that's going to need to heal later. And it includes ways out for other people. Not everybody's world becomes flooded like that, but on the outside, there's something to carry as well. The same template could be in mythology, where the outer shell is adventure. It's got something else going on. Okay, that's it. In a nutshell, we're born, we come about, we start out in life very innocent and free, carefree. We become corrupted as life goes on. We experience life, and unbeknownst to us, we become products of the way we judge life experiences, and that we're holding those electrically and chemically in our brain in a way that is causing us to continue to experience life in the same manner in the universe. We're going to have to forgive at some point. We're a product of where we came from, and that the emergence of whatever happens is because of whatever is planted inside. Whatever the nature of what we have put away is the nature of what is going to emerge. And it's going to happen cyclically. And it's going to be painful, and it's going to happen repetitively, and it's going to continue to grow until it gets out of control. Right here, everybody lives this part of life. Whether their world gets out of control or not is another story, but everybody lives this template. Some people from this point on live their entire lives now, hating, hurting, protesting, screaming, yelling, arg, me against you, you against. They will do that. The next thing that picks up is it's called the monomyth, but in all reality, it's not what Joseph Campbell has identified. It is a self-healing path with very specific interactive steps that are in here. Whether he saw them or not, I don't know. They're not in his book. He kept it very nebulous. We're not going to connect with the goddess. We're going to do something that's a little more practical up here. That's just one example. Okay, that's it. That's what I see. That is the creation template in its largest form, with a piece in there that I can't identify, but I think it went to something that at one point in time was bigger, and it's been pared down. But that there's enough of it out there to go, no, there's something out there. I'm not quite sure. It's big. It's big. It's really big. Anyway, okay. I don't know if I've covered everything. I'm sure not. This is just an overview, honestly. You can go into detail on all of these quite a bit. Hope it was interesting. Love one another. See you in the next video.